A CV for a fruit picker or a vegetable seasonal worker has to fulfill certain things. And some of these things I'm going to highlight in this video. And these are experience, skills, physical abilities that are suited for the role. And today I'm going to talk about some of the tips that I do feel if we implement them can actually make one CV stand out. First and foremost, just like in any other CV, one of the things that you have to mention first is your personal information. What is it that you include in your personal information? This is where you're going to mention your name, your contact details. This can be your phone number and your emails. Also in this section, you can actually go on to highlight your location. Are you from Africa? Are you actually in country? So these things are quite important. Also in this personal detail section, you are also going to mention your availability. Are you looking for part-time work? Are you looking for work with sponsorship? Are you looking for long-term roles or contract roles? So it's very, very important that straight on from the word go, you mention all your intent in terms of the role that you're looking for. The second part will be your personal statement. This is a chance for you to showcase your skills, your work ethic, and interest in seasonal work. This is a chance for you to show your dedication and enthusiasm. So do not take this lightly or take it for granted. And I do believe like this is the section whereby you can actually straight away win whoever a recruiter's interest to say, I want to speak to this person, or I really want to interview this person. So guys, make sure you do a good job on this section. So after that one, I do believe if you are structuring your CV, you can go on now into the skills section. But there are skills that actually I do believe are actually key to this role in particular. So I'll go on to list them, but in no particular order or in no particular importance. If it's a fruit picker or vegetable or a seasonal worker role, horticultural knowledge is quite important. What is it that you're talking about? We're talking about, are you familiar with planting, harvesting, and general crop care? So your knowledge of this can show, this person actually sourced this role. One of the things that I want to mention in this role is the fact that this is a physically demanding role. So physical stamina is quite important. So this is where you're showing your ability to work in outdoor conditions, to work in physically demanding work settings. Are you able to complete physically demanding tasks? Are you able to stand for long hours? So these are some of the questions that you'll be addressing in your CV. Guys, we cannot talk about relocation, we cannot talk about visa sponsorship roles and not talk about adaptability. What I mean by adaptability, are you somebody who is quick to adjust in a new role, in a new country altogether? So adaptability covers a lot of things. This can be adaptability in terms of cultural differences altogether. I'll give you an example of when I relocated to the UK. I was coming straight from Africa and I'd never been to any other country but my home country. So everything was completely new. I cannot even start to mention the language barrier. So here are some of the things that I do feel when it comes to adaptability in this role, one needs to focus their attention to. You're going to be working in a team that involves people from different countries. Are you somebody that can quickly gel in, quickly adapt, quickly fit in? Are you somebody who can fit in terms of maybe climatic conditions can be affected, that can actually affect somebody's relocation journey, somebody's adaptability? So in this role, you have to also look at that. Are you able to work in windy, cold, rainy weather? I'll give an example to say I'd always lived in Zimbabwe. I'd always lived in Africa. The weather is warm. There is no snow. It's hardly any windy. It's always above 30 degrees there. But then you're coming to this country where it can hit sub-zero. Can you survive? Can you adapt? I will not even start to mention cultural adaptability. You're leaving everything that you know. You're leaving your support system back home and you're coming to a different country. Are you adaptable? So how do you then portray your adaptability? You can actually go on to mention that you've worked in different countries in the region. you've worked in the Sub-Sahara, you've worked in the SADC region, depending on where you're coming from. Guys, a very big welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're watching me for the first time, I'm Florence, and today we are talking about how to structure a CV for a fruit picker or vegetable seasonal worker. Guys, if you're new on this platform we do talk about life in the diaspora, life in the UK, and today we are actually making a follow-up to a video that we made on an opportunity that's allowing people to come from anywhere else in the world to come to work in the UK. So guys, we're going to continue with structuring a job-winning CV. So some of the skills that you can actually mention in your CV is, are you somebody who can pay attention to detail? Why do I emphasize on this one? It's because this is a business. Honestly, people cannot not hire you all the way from abroad or from overseas and not want to realize profits. So some of these organizations have got a certain standard to which their product or to which their crop has to meet. So definitely when we talk about paying attention to detail, we're talking about quality. We're talking about quality assurance. Quality assurance to their market, quality assurance to those organizations who actually monitor the whole process, the whole production process. One of the things that I've learned through staying in the UK and working in different industries in the UK is the fact that there is regulatory bodies everywhere who regulate the work that is done, who regulate the product, who regulate the whole process. So you as a worker coming to work in UK farms, UK factories, your ability to pay attention to detail is actually a big thing for employers. Why? Because that guarantees quality, that guarantees a certain standard that they want to maintain or even go beyond. So also one of the things that I do feel one needs to include in their CV is, are you a team player? Like I said, these companies are recruiting from everywhere else in the world. One of the things that people do ask me a lot is the fact that do they not only employ from Europe? But I'm sure if you've researched on this country, after Brexit, a lot of things changed. So that's why they are looking everywhere to find labor, everywhere to keep their farms, to keep their industries going. So teamwork is a big thing when we talk about farm work. Why do I mention that? It's because they are attracting labor from anywhere in the world, everywhere in the world. So you're joining a team with people that they've got different backgrounds, different knowledge, different competencies and skills. Can you then fit in? Are you able then to gel in with that team? Part and parcel of teamwork would cover maybe working with people that are at the same level in terms of job role, in terms of competence as you, but also can go on beyond to say you work with other departments, to say maybe the marketing department, accounts department, quality control, quality assurance department. How well can you work with those teams? Also, part and parcel of being a team player is you can actually be working with other stakeholders or working with sister companies. I've seen in this country where there's farm to farm relationships. Can you work with people that are not entirely your team but are from a different farm altogether? So you need to portray teamwork. One of the things that are important as a skill is communication. Communication comes through verbal communication, non-verbal communication, written communication. How good are you? How well can you communicate? Because I mean, you're working with different people. You're feedbacking to your managers. You're feedbacking to everyone in the team. So how well you communicate will go a long way. So as you're making your CV, portray how good a communicator you are. One of the things that I want to mention is the fact that you're coming to the UK on a seasonal worker visa. Definitely the English language, your English proficiency is very important. Highlight which level of English can you speak. Also, an ability to understand instructions and communicate effectively is a key thing when it comes to this visa. I know one of the things that I mentioned in my previous video was the fact that they are not requiring somebody to write an English test, but obviously they do expect you to be able to take instructions, to pass on information, to interpret certain information, and to communicate effectively within your team. Guys, there are so many skills and that you can actually mention and incorporate in your CV. So it's not limited to the things that I've actually mentioned. But also one of the things, like I always say in my videos, is when you are trying to portray these skills, give examples. Give examples. It's very, very important. We'll go on to the work experience section. This is where you're stating the organizations that you have worked for. One of the things that I do encourage people to do is start with the most recent organization that you've worked for. I would encourage people to mention at least at least two organizations that you've worked for. Obviously, you could have worked for one employer, but include even your voluntary experience. Trust me, it goes a long way. So what is it that you involve in your work experience? You're going to mention what job role did you have in that organization? What portfolio did you hold? Were you a horticulture worker? Were you an agricultural assistant? Were you a fruit picker? Were you a vegetable picker? Were you a fertilizer applicator? So there's so many roles or portfolios that you could have held in that organization. Mention the employer by name or the project that you worked on. Also go on to mention the location of that company. I'll give you an example to say, I worked for Agricura in Zimbabwe. Or I worked for Tonga Toilet in Zimbabwe. What job role did you have? I was an agricultural assistant. Go on to mention the month or the year, the duration of your employment. It's very, very important for the employer that's looking to recruit you. Also, you go on to mention some of the roles or some of the day-to-day things that you used to do. I'll give you some of the examples that I would include in the CV. If you planted or you pruned or harvested crops, you go on to mention that you did that. Also, it's very, very important for you to mention if you worked on projects or if you worked for farms that specialize in things like, I'll give you an example to say I worked on a berry farm or on a vegetable or herbs farm. Why it's important for you to mention those things is because it becomes relatable. It can be relatable to the relevant UK horticultural organization that you are coming to work for. So as soon as they see that you worked for such and such an organization that was dealing with strawberries or that was dealing with grapes, then they would know, oh, this experience is what we're looking for. This person can actually suit the role that we want. Remember, competition is quite high. Everybody is wanting to get into this country for these jobs. Also, some of the things that you can go on to mention is that you used basic tools for planting, maintenance, and ensuring crop health and productivity. It's quite important. I mean, you cannot entirely be working, maybe saying fruit picker, and not have worked with tools or simple machinery. So it's very important. If you operated machinery, go on to mention that. Some of the things that you can actually mention is the fact that you assisted in sorting, packing, and quality control of produce for local markets. Remember, we've said some of the skills that they're looking for is your attention to detail, your quality assurance skills. So if you mention that, it's a bonus. Again, one of the things that I want to emphasize in an agricultural setup, in an agricultural or in a production industry, safety, hygiene, and quality are very key. So you can go on to mention that you followed safety protocols that ensure that you maintain a clean and safe working environment. It's very key for you to mention these things, and these things can see you getting hired. So I've also mentioned that if you've not worked for so many organizations, look for maybe voluntary experience that you have. Also, you can actually add maybe experience coming from a project that you've worked on. I'll give you an example to say in that project, maybe it involved maybe assisting with soil preparation, planting and weeding in large fields or greenhouses. Part and parcel of this, some of the roles that you can mention is that you manage crop watering and nutrient application to ensure high quality yields. So as you can see, this is an agricultural based experience, but it's different from fruit picking or vegetable processing or vegetable packaging or production. But it's linked to the job application or the job role or the job specification that you're looking at. Why that would be relevant is the fact that you've for a long time worked in a similar or farming environment. Sometimes it doesn't have to be the same role, but the work ethic, the work culture, the expectation, the quality, and the mindset that they will be looking for, you fit that. So do not shy away from mentioning that experience altogether. Guys, some of the things that you have to include in your CV is educational part. If you've got any relevant educational qualification, you need to mention it. Why that would be a plus is because some of these organizations, yes, they're looking for a fruit picker, they're looking for a seasonal worker, but then within that team, they could be looking for people that will be like leading others, that will be taking maybe a more responsibility. So you mentioning your relevant certification or relevant educational qualifications is quite key. Some of these could be like you've got a diploma in agriculture, a diploma in horticulture, a diploma in agronomy. Mention those qualifications. Also, when you mention these qualifications, it's quite important that you mention the institution that awarded you that certification. Mention the university and their location. You say, I've got a diploma in agriculture from maybe the Open University of Zimbabwe. I've got a degree in agriculture from Midland State University in Zimbabwe. I'm just giving these as examples. If you've had any certifications that are relevant to this job role, do not shy away from mentioning them. By certifications, I mean you could have done an online course, you could have done a face-to-face, maybe 5-day in-house training. Mention those things. Trust me, they're quite relevant. Trust me, they can take you a long way. I will speak from my experience. As you know on this channel, I moved to the UK on a care worker visa. Part and parcel of the certifications that I did is the fact that I did my Red Cross certification, and it actually ended with me being hired by a UK registered company. So these companies do value those short courses that we do. These companies do value those online courses that you do. These companies do value those in-house training that you can do. Some of these certifications could be agriculture related, could be horticulture related, but it doesn't have to be limited to that. If you've done anything to do with health and safety training, please do put it in. Why do I say that? Where there's people, there's the safety element. Where there's production, there's the health element. There's a safety element. So do not shy away from mentioning those things. If you've done any basic first aid, trust me, put that in. It could see you landing a job. If you've got any other certification that is relevant to horticulture or agriculture, please do mention them. Also, there are other additionals that you can go on to mention. Things like language. How proficient are you in the English language? I mean, you're coming to the UK. So if you speak fluent English, this could be a bonus because it shows you can communicate, you take instruction, you can actually read and write. So it's a job less for that organization. If you've got any other additional language that you speak, I've actually said this visa is open to anyone, regardless of where they come from. It's open to, the world over. So you being able maybe to speak French, Spanish, Portuguese is a plus. So don't shy away from mentioning those things. Other additional information that you can actually mention is your eligibility to work in the UK. You could be watching this video and you're already in the UK, you're a dependent, you're on a student visa, and you want to switch to this seasonal worker visa. You have to mention in your application to say, I am eligible to work in the UK, or I am in the UK on a dependent worker visa. This would then give the recruiter or the employer an insight into what is it that we need to put in place for us to get the services of this person in particular. Last but not least, in terms of additional information, mention things like availability. When can you start? It's very, very important for you to be truthful in this regard. To say, I can only start in January, or I can only start in autumn, or I can only start from this month to this month. Some of the things that I do encourage people to mention is the fact that maybe you've got an international driver's license, you've got a full UK driver's license. These are just additional. Some of the questions that I've been getting is the fact that, do I put in my references? Yes, in any CV, always leave room for the references section. So you could actually say references are available upon request. But if you're like me, I would just put down the references there and then. why it saves whoever is wanting to recruit you time. Some of these recruiters would want to find out more about you before they even book an interview for you, because they're saving themselves time of having to sit you down and talk to you, and then they realize your references are not successful. So it just depends from organization to organization. So guys, I think that's all I had for you today. That's all I had for you in the CV. What I can assure you, or one of the things that I want to encourage you, is do a good job in your CV. And also, before I end this video, guys, one of the things that I want to encourage people to do is come up with a cover letter. A cover letter is a chance for you to showcase yourself. It's a chance for you to showcase your skills. What is it that you're bringing to the table? What is it that you are offering? It's a chance for you to come up with just a short and brief insight into who you are, your skills and competence, in a way that's inviting to a recruiter, that's inviting to your future employer. Guys, happy job hunting, and I'll see you in our next video. Bye.